Okay, sir, let's start. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. This session we have with us Dr. A.K. Dixit. He is the Principal Scientist Division of Crop Production ICAR IGFRI Jhansi UP. Sir is going to deliberate on round the year fodder production technologies for rainfed slash irrigated areas. Sir, I now handle control over to you and you may start your presentation. Sir, your screen is black. Can you move to the next page of the slide on the PDF? Because I see only black screen. Can you?
Yeah, just
Yeah, perfect. You can start full screen mode so that you can in view you may have full screen mode as well. You can go to full screen mode. Full screen.
yeah. Now it is there.
Yeah, it's visible and you're audible, sir. You may continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Majid.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Dr. A.K. Dixit from IGFRI Jhansi. Dear friends, organizers of this training program given me a topic on round the year fodder production technologies for rainfed and irrigated areas. Before discussing about the round the fodder technology, we must know what is our facts about some Indian agriculture. Dear friends, we are from food shortage or import to self-sufficiency, or now we can say in the export. We are in the condition of the export because we are producing near about 292 million ton food grains. We are from subsistence farming to intensive or technology-led cultivation. We got green revolution, white revolution, blue revolution, and yellow revolution. I think all of you may know about green, white, blue, and yellow revolution. Just I want to give some sub points about green revolution. Green revolution means we are much more producing food grains. White means milk production is higher, blue means fish production, and yellow means oil seed production. We are also much more higher than what. Today, we are front ranking in the production of many crops and commodities. Like in milk, we are first in the milk, millets, jutes, ginger, castor oil, safflower, oil seeds, cotton seed, mangoes, papaya, and bananas. So, dear friends, now we are largest producer of in these crops or commodities, and we are second largest producer of rice and wheat also. In case of if we see the livestock status of our country, our agriculture is the mixed farming type. Means crop as well as livestock are reared and cultivated both on the same time. Livestock production is the backbone of our Indian agriculture and main source of employment and ultimate livelihood of the rural population. So 70% of the rural population is dependent upon the livelihood on the livestock and agriculture. So, but the ever increasing demand of the food, milk products, meat and eggs, we have the population of livestock is also increasing day by day. So, but the productivity is very low in our Indian condition. The reason of poor productivity is inadequate availability of quality fodder as well as the poor genetic constitution. If we see the area of fodder from last 2 decades, it is almost stagnant, which is 8.4 million hectare all over the India, which is hardly 5% of the total cultivated area of the country. And now we are deficit about 11.424 in green fodder and 23.4% in dry fodder availability. So friends, what are the constraints and what are the opportunities in livestock sector? The 90% farmers are small and marginal. Declining soil fertility and productivity is the constant. Poor quality water is also a constant. Less availability of quality seed and planting material, lack of fodder markets, and increasing pressure on cultivatable land reduces allocation of land for fodder. These are some constant, but opportunities are also there. We have opportunity in very urban areas to grow forest crops and marketing. Opportunity to grow fodder crops in alternate land use systems. Means where we have orchards, we can grow the fodder crops. Where the wasteland is available, we can also grow the fodder crops because forest crops require less fertile soils than other crops. The average growth rate of the crossbred cow is increasing in our country. Day by day, the crossbred population is increasing. So this is an opportunity. High demand of milk and its products. Day by day, we are going towards the vegetarian diets. That's why the demand of milk and its byproducts are also increasing. And surplus production of crop residue, mainly rice and wheat. If we can see in the some areas of our country, there is a burning of the crop residue because the unavailability of the proper technology for their management, or you can say the low underuse of these crop residue. So there is surplus production of crop residue, and research and extension. We have the strong research and extension network. So these are some opportunities. So we must focus on the livestock production and its rearing. The genetic population, the genetic potential of any crop or any animal can be realized only if we feed the animal with quality fodder. And full exploitation of milk production of dairy animals, it is imperative to feed the animals with about 40 to 50 kg green fodder per day. So the requirement is very high. So there is a need to feed our ever increasing livestock population. We have to design some innovative strategies so that the product or produce from the agriculture could be effectively utilized for livestock feeding. Under such a situation, the round tail fodder production technology may be helpful for the for assured availability of green fodder as well as the some conserved fodder for the throughout the year. Dear friends, some of the limitations in the quality fodder production and availability in the country. First limitation is stagnation in the area. Competition with the food crop. Most of fodder crops are grown in the rain-fed areas and high yielding food crops varieties with low crop residue. Here we can see that rice varieties and wheat varieties now we are breeding for the short stature, means triple gene, double gene dwarf type varieties. They have a very high harvest index and crop residue is very low. So this is our limitation. Residue burning is also a limitation, and day by day the crop residue is diverted to other use for industrial purposes. This is our limitation. And most of the grasses are grown on degraded land and fallow lands, and these lands have the very low ability to produce the crop. And overgrazing is also a problem. If we see in semi-arid regions, the carrying capacity of semi-arid region is 1 adult cattle unit per hectare, and but the stocking rate is 51. Means here is the capacity is only 1 ACU, but we are imposing here 51 ACUs. And in case of arid grassland, the 0.5 ACU is the carrying capacity, and we are imposing 4 ACUs, means stocking is 4. That's why the overgrazing is a problem in the common lands as well as in the pastures. Underdeveloped organizations for fodder seed production. Fodder seed production is also a limitation, and least attention and allocation of minimal production resources by farmers. Also, the farmers they take care of very least attention and allocation of resources for fodder production, and non-availability of production technologies to the stakeholder. these are some limitations. That's why our production of the fodder is very poor. So, friends, if we see here, there is regional imbalances are also in the fodder availability. If we see in case of green fodder yield, our country is divided into the 15 agroclimatic zones. Among 15 agroclimatic zones, we see in Western Himalayan zone, Upper Gangetic Plains, and Eastern Plateau and Hills zones. Means 1, 5, 5, and 7. Here is a 60%, more than 60% availability of the green fodder. But in case of Trans-Gangetic Plains, which is 6th, is I think it is a part of UP and central UP. Here, the availability of 40 to 60%, and in the rest part of our country, the availability is hardly 40%. Means availability is only is less than 40% in case of green fodder. But if we see in case of dry fodder, the in eastern Himalayan, means this is Seven Sisters, Middle Gangetic Plains, this is Bihar and Eastern UP, Upper Gangetic Plains means Central and Western UP, East Coast Plains and hill zone means this is the part of I think Andhra Pradesh and some part of Karnataka and some part of the Chhattisgarh. Here is the availability is more than 60% dry fodder availability. But in case of Trans-Gangetic Plains means Punjab and Himachal Pradesh, Eastern Plateau and Hills means this is some part of MP, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Andhra Pradesh, and Central Plateau and Hills means Madhya Pradesh and some part of the Rajasthan and Gujarat. They have 40 to 60% availability of dry fodder. But in remaining part of the country, the availability of green fodder is less than 40%. So, friends, there is a problem of regional imbalances in case of fodder availability. So, what may be the strategies to ensure the round their fodder availability? So, under these situations, the only option is to catalyze vertical increase in the fodder production. Vertical increase means crop intensification and conservation and use of or search of other resources of the forest. Means through intensification, we can intercrop the main crop. We can use improved package of practices. We can use our conservation practices, means making of silage and hay, and use of other options like azolla, thornless cactus, and so on. So, friend, for crop intensification, how we can intensify our crop production? So, we can intensify our crop production through choice of suitable crop and its variety and cropping system for that particular region or particular zone, because the soil condition, climatic condition vary from region to region. So that's why the choice of crop means selection of crop, their variety and cropping system is very important. And after selection of the crop, the proper selection of the soil and its management is also very important. Seed sowing management is very crucial because the seed is very costly input, and if we sow the seed with a timeliness and with precision, we can get a very plentiful of the harvest. So nutrient management, irrigation management, weed management, insect pest and disease management, and harvesting. All these management are also required for intensification of the crop and cropping systems. So these are some cropping systems for different zones of the country. If we see in the north zone, these are some cropping systems like maize, cowpea, sorghum, cowpea, barsim plus mustard. Means there is a cropping system start from the summer season. Maize, cowpea during summer, sorghum, cowpea during kharif, and barsim, mustard during the winter season. Similarly, in case of western zones, There are four prominent or potential intensive cropping systems which can provide the fodder around the year. Similarly, in southern zone and eastern zone, some intensive fodder production systems or cropping systems are there. But the for successful or getting potential of these cropping systems, the management of individual crop or its component crop is very important. So friends, we should manage all component crop. Means if we take some example of maize, sorghum, and barley. So if we properly manage maize and cowpea, sorghum and cowpea, barley and mustard, definitely the overall system productivity will be higher. So system productivity depend upon the yield of the individual crop. So management of individual crop is very essential, very important for uh, sufficient availability of fodder throughout the year or in each and every month of the crop. If we see here, so there are two types of fodder crops. I think all the who are agriculture related participant, all of you, all of may know. But for recalling your past experience or knowledge, I want to repeat with you leguminous fodder and non-leguminous fodder. Leguminous fodder have special significance because they have high herbage protein and partial independence on the soil for their nitrogen needs, because they require very less nitrogen, and nitrogen which is required by them, it is automatically or symbiotically fixed from the atmospheric nitrogen. And in case of non-leguminous fodder crops, they provide energy-rich herbage to the livestock, and these have wider adaptability and variability in terms of growth, regeneration potential, yield, and quality of the crop. So broadly, fodders are classified into two groups: leguminous fodder and non-leguminous. And we can also classify on the basis of seasonal and perennial basis. So in case of seasonal, all the crops are grown on in the different season, means during Kharif season, Rabi season, and Zaid season or summer season. But in case of perennials, they are sown once after 4 or 5 years, and they can we can get very much more plentiful of the herbage yield throughout the year. You can Arbil or may or not? Hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible. You are audible.
So there are crop and varieties should be selected according to the soil type, area, and situation. For example, for irrigated and arable land condition, Bajra Napier hybrid, Guinea grass, rye grass, Setaria, maize, sorghum, oat, cowpea, berseem, lucerne. These crops can be selected for the irrigated conditions, and the areas which are arable. But areas which are not arable and rain-fed, there some crops like perennial grasses like tall fescue, orchard grass, brachiaria, paspalum, chrysopogon, brachypelua, Setaria, Guinea grass, central grass. So many grasses are available for the non-arable and rain-fed conditions. Similarly, perennial legumes are also here, like red clover, white clover, Stylosynthus. So friends, we must select the crop as per our soil type, as per our climate, as per our input availability. So some crops are here like maize. I think just I go through these slides. Maize, it is a non-leguminous crop and ideal for hilly areas. If our soil is slightly acidic, we must select the maize crop. If our soil is somewhat neutral, so we should go for the sorghum cultivation. And if soil is somewhat sodic or saline soil, we can grow bajra. So on the basis of soil type, we must select the soil crop. Similarly, oat, if irrigation facility during Rabi season is less, then oat should be selected. And if and under Kharif season, if soil fertility is low or poor, then cowpea can be grown. Similarly, lucerne, if irrigation facility is somewhat better than oat cultivation but lower than barsim cultivation, then we can choose lucerne. Similarly, if we have sufficient quantity of irrigation water, so we should choose barsim. So on that basis, the crop should be selected. After selection of proper crop, and similarly in case of selection of perennial, if we have assured irrigation facility, then we must select the perennial grasses like NB hybrid. And the South Indian condition, perennial perennial NB hybrid is very important. And in hilly areas or in temperate areas, Setaria and Guinea grasses are very suitable, because the NB hybrid not performing better under temperate condition, but under tropical condition NB hybrid perform very well. So on the basis of soil type, climate and situation, resource base, the crop should be selected. And after selecting the crop, the selection of proper variety of that particular crop is very important. Like in case of sorghum, if we want a single cut crop, then PC6, PC9, PC23, and HC171260. These crops should be selected, and these have adaptability of whole country. In case of multi-cut sorghum, PCH 106, SSG 988, 898, 851 may be selected. In case of maize, African tall is well adapted to each and every corner of our country, and similarly other varieties like Vijay, Moti, Jawahar, the production potential of each variety may vary, but and adoption areas also vary. So on that basis, the selection of different crops and their varieties like sorghum, maize, similarly maize, bajra, cowpea and guar may be selected. And barsim, lucerne, these are some varieties like in case of barsim, meskabi, Vardhan, JB1, EB2. One recently variety of barsim, single cut variety of barsim is also developed, SPSC1, single cut barsim variety, Bundelkhand 1. That have only one cut, and it can be also fitted in the intensive cropping system. And normally all the varieties of barsim are multi-cut, but only last year one single cut variety is also developed by our institute. Similarly, in case of lucerne, varieties are here like Sirsa 8 for northern zone, Anand 2 for Gujarat, Rajasthan and MP, RL88 for entire growing tract of the lucerne, and it have much more production potential, and type 9 which is north zone. For north, it is released for the north zone. So these are some photographs of the barsim crop. And similarly in case of oat, like Kent, it have 45 to 50 ton production potential. GHO Bundel Jai 851 or GHO 851, it is a multi-cut oat variety, and it have production potential of 40 to 50 ton. And Barley, Azad and DL36 varieties are also we can use for the dual purpose, for fodder as well as for feed purposes. This is the photograph of multi-cut GHO 851, and these are some single cut varieties, but farmers are also taking these varieties as a multi-cut, like Kent GHO 851, they also use as a multi-cut, but released as single cut, but farmers are using as per their convenience. They are using as a multi-cut. These are some varieties of perennial crops like BN hybrid and Guinea grass. So in case of BN hybrid, the production potential is 70 to 170 ton per hectare per year, and in case of Guinea, it is 60 to 140 ton per hectare per year. These are some photographs of the perennial grasses, NB hybrid and Guinea grass. So after selection of the crop and their varieties according to their soil type, so its preparation is very important. So if light soils are there, leguminous fodder crops should be sown, and if fertile soils are suitable for non-leguminous, means high nutrient requiring crops. So proper management of soil is important after selection of proper of appropriate or suitable crop. So seed and sowing. Seed and sowing means quality seed. We should purchase or collect the seed from any reliable source. If seed is poor, then definitely our plant population will be not healthy, and the potential of the crop will be not achieved. So selection of the planting material or seed is very important. After selecting the crop, timely sowing is important, because if we delay the sowing of any crop, then the vegetative growth vegetative growth, the duration of the time available for vegetative growth will be lesser. So we should not delay the sowing time, and and try to, for round the variety of the fodder, we should focus on the staggered planting of the any fodder crop. Means 10 to 15 days interval or weekly interval we should plant, so that the availability of fodder should be throughout the year. Otherwise, in Kharif season, the sowing of crop vary from June to July, and in Rabi, November to October to November, and in summer, March to April. And perennial crops we can plant or sow from March to August if irrigation facility is available. And if irrigation facility is not available, then after onset of monsoon, means in the month of June, July to August, we can plant or sow the perennial crops. And after the method of sowing is also very important. Generally, we see generally farmers grow for the broadcast, but in case of broadcasting, the germination is very poor. If winds are there, then there is a lodging problem, and the germination, the seeds are also picked by the birds, and so many losses are there in the broadcasting. And also there is a problem of under broadcasting, the agronomic management, means cultural practices. We can do hardly any cultural practice, means weed management or earthing up. So broadcasting generally farmers do, but in line sowing give better results in comparison to the broadcasting. And site specific or location specific some technology interventions are also required. Like if soil is waterlogged, under such situation, under such conditions, raised bed planting should be there. So we should follow raised bed planting. And for improving the fertility of the soil, we should include intercropping of the fodder crops with the legumes. So method, after selection of method, so seed rate. Generally, if we have our own seed, we sow higher dose, a higher rate of the seed. And if we purchase from the market, then because there is a involvement of the money, we use appropriate or optimum seed rate. So if we apply the seed at higher dose, it is not sure that our production will be higher. So apply the seed, what will be the need of that crop, what is the our purpose of the growing that crop, and what is the method of sowing. So on this these aspects, the seed rate should be defined. Seed rate also depend upon the size of the seed, and size of the seed even in the same crop vary variety to variety. For example, in case of oat, there is a variety Kent which have a larger seed, but in case and there is also a variety J2 851 which has very smaller seed. So if seed is smaller, then seed rate will be lower, and if seed is our larger, then our seed rate will be higher. And it also depends upon crop to crop. Like in case of Barseem have very smaller seed, and that's why the seed requirement is very low. But if we see the maize seed is a bolder in size, So the seed requirement is high for the male. So can say simply the seed rate depend upon the size of the seed and spacing and method of the sowing. Appropriate sowing depth is also important for uniform germination. Means if we sow the crop or seed in very lower depth and soil moisture is very high, then and seed size is very low, so there is very much more chances for very poor germination. And if soil moisture is low and we sow the seed in shallow depth, then very much more chances for the poor germination. So that's why the sowing depth is also important, and it is depend upon the seed size, availability of moisture condition of the field, and seed treatment is also an important for uniform and healthy crop. Means if we treat the seed, which will enhance our germination, early and uniform germination and growth, enhance nodulation in if we inoculate the seed with biofertilizer, means rhizobium culture, the nodulation will be much more in legumes crop. And if we better than soil, and if we apply the seed treatment, it is always better than if we apply as a soil as well as foliar application. So we should prefer for the seed treatment. And uniform crop stand, and also in the adverse condition, the seed treatment is also important. So these are the some sowing time, seed rate, and spacing of different fodder crops. Like in case of NB hybrid, it is normally sown or planted from February to July or up to August, and planting material is the 20,000 to 33,000 rooted slips. This is in the numbers. Rooted slip per hectare are required. The plant spacing is 75 to 100 centimeter into 50 centimeters. Similarly, in case of Guinea grass, this is also planted at similar time, and 3 to 4 kg per hectare seed rate is required. And if seed is not here and we use rooted slips, then 20,000 to 40,000 rooted slip are required, because the spacing is 50 to 100 centimeter into 50 centimeter plant to plant. Similarly, in case of sorghum, maize, cowpea, berseem, lucerne, oat, and barley, here is the seed rate and their spacing. So nutrient, as we all of you know, we know that plants require 16 to 17 elements for their proper growth and development. So if we see here, the nitrogen is important for non-leguminous crop, but phosphorus is very important for leguminous crop. And in multi-cut non-leguminous crop, apply nitrogen after each and every cut. Split application of nitrogen is also required, and role of potassium pronounced in grass and legumes mixture. So although 16 to 17 elements are required for their proper growth and development, but their selection of proper nutrient and their time of application is also very important. So apply nutrient on the soil test basis and crop requirement, because our soils day by day may be deteriorating if we are not applying the balanced nutrition. So always apply nutrient on the basis of soil test basis. Means if soils are sufficient in case of any nutrient, so there is no we can say there is very no need to apply higher dose of that particular nutrient. We should apply what the crop is requiring. So in case of we should focus on the locally available material, means organic source of nutrients like FYM, vermicomposting. We should focus on the biofertilizer consortium, means rhizobium, azoospermum, azotobacter, vesicular or vascular mycetes, phosphorus solubilizing bacteria for nutrient economy. They enhance the availability and use efficiency of the applied nutrients, these biofertilizers. Crop rotation, we should follow the crop rotation, and if we adopt proper crop rotation, we can save about 25% of the nitrogen requirement or nutrient requirement. FYM application should be 10 to 13 ton per hectare in alternate years. If FYM is available sufficient, then we can apply every year. But if it is not there in the sufficient quantity, then we should try to apply the well-rotten FYM after alternate in the alternate year. We should follow green manuring and brown manuring concept. Means green manuring means application of leguminous plants and its incorporation in the soil. In case of brown manuring, we grow the leguminous crop and apply some broadleaf herbicide like 2,4-D, and the leaves of that leguminous crop shaded on the leaves, and they provide the nutrients to the that field. So brown manuring and green manuring should be used, this concept, and focus should be on integrated nutrient management, balanced fertilizers should be. In integrated nutrient management, we apply organic sources, inorganic sources, biofertilizers, crop rotations, and green manuring. So for higher biomass yield, for our better crop growth and development, we should focus on the balanced nutrition and integrated nutrient management. So there are some components of the integrated nutrient management, means fertilizers, crop residue, non-conventional sources, biofertilizers, green manuring, organic manures. These are some components of the integrated nutrient management. So these are schedule of the nutrient management in different fodder crops. Like in case of NB hybrid, 20 ton FYM, 60 kg nitrogen as a basal, 60 kg phosphorus as a basal, and 40 kg potassium as a basal should be applied. And as I also earlier told that in case of multi-cut or perennials, split application of nutrient is important. So here in case of guinea grass and NB hybrid, 30 kg nitrogen after each cut should be applied as a top dressing. In case of sorghum, in single cut, S means single cut and M means multi cut. In case of single cut, 30 kg nitrogen of 30 days after sowing should be applied. But in case of multi cut, 30 kg nitrogen 30 days after sowing, and again 30 kg nitrogen after each cut should be applied. So splitting of nitrogen is very important in the multi-cut crops. If we see here in case of legumes require very less quantity of nitrogen, but the phosphorus requirement is very high. So the proper phosphorus management is very important for the leguminous fodder crops. Water, after nutrient, water or irrigation management is very important. And again, water management or irrigation management depend upon the soil type, climate, and the crop. If soil is light, then frequent irrigation is required. And if the soil is heavier or clay soil, then the interval of application of irrigation is much more higher. Similarly, climate. If climate is arid type, then the frequent irrigation is required, and if climate is humid or temperate type, then there may be interval may be more for first to second irrigation or 1-to-1 irrigation. And crop type. The irrigation management also depend upon the crop. If the crop is, for example, perceived during the winter season, the requirement of irrigation will be higher as compared to barley or as compared to oat. Similarly, during the Kharif season, if our crop is maize, and then it requires higher number of irrigations. If rainfall is not there, then it require higher or more number of irrigation than sorghum and bajra. And bajra requires less water. So the water or irrigation management depend upon the soil type, climate type, and the crop type. So normally forages are highly responsive to irrigation because they have much harvested as green biomass, so irrigation requirement is higher in case of forages. So for judicious use of water or irrigation water, proper irrigation scheduling means how to irrigate and when to irrigate and how much to irrigate. These questions should be answered. And new methods of application of irrigation water should be focused. New methods means in wider spaced crop, application of micro irrigation should be preferred. In multi-cut cuts, irrigate the field after harvesting, after each harvesting, and generally requires 15 to 20 irrigations. So, in case of multi-cut or perennial crops, the requirement of water is much more higher. And in early sown kharif crops, 1 to 2 irrigation pre-monsoon period is also required. Similarly, in summer season, the summer season crops require more number of irrigation or frequent irrigations. And crop specific irrigation management is also required. In case of sorghum, there is an anti-quality element HCN or furin hydrocyanic acid, and if drought is there in the sorghum field, then the HCN content goes higher. So for lowering down the HCN content in that sorghum crop, we must irrigate the crop, or we must maintain the optimum level of the moisture for reducing the toxicity, because this HCN is the toxic to the animals. So these are some irrigation scheduling of the crop specific. So if we manage these crop irrigation schedules for different crops, then definitely the crop do better in the field. And after water management, weed is also important, like in food crops or any other crops. Weed management in the forest crops is also very important, because they reduce quality as well as the quantity of the forest crops. And in the case of sorghum, we have observed that about 50% dry fodder yield reduced due to the infestation of the weeds, and they also uptake about 50 kg nitrogen, 20 kg phosphorus, and 45 kg potassium uptake by the weeds. So although weeds increase the tonnage, but they impair the quality of the fodder. So effective control up to 25 to 35 days after sowing, which is the critical weed competition stage of that in case of forages, is very important. So for management, deep summer plowing is important, intercropping is very important, because legumes smother the weeds, and so intercropping is advocated. Normally, we do not advocate the chemical application of herbicidal application of herbicides in fodder crops, because the ultimate consumer of that forage is the animals. So due to the residual toxicity, we don't recommend. But if the infestation is there, then some safer herbicides which have very low waiting period is selection of that herbicide is important. We should follow integrated weed management practices, because integrated means some operation, cultural management, agronomic management, and herbicidal management. Some examples of different fodder crops are here, like in case of maize, intercropping with cowpea also reduces the weed population, and atrazine should be applied as a pre-emergence application. Similarly, in case of sorghum, crop should be intercropped with the cowpea. In case of cowpea, trifloral enotija herbicide should be applied. And in case of oats, there is a seasonal weeds problem, so the proper management of seed The chicory is main problem in the case of Barsim. So for management of chicory, we should do 10% salt solution treatment. We make a solution of 10% salt and dip the Barsim seed in that solution, and we see the Kasmi seed will be floating on the upper surface of that solution, and we can easily remove Kasmi seeds, and the seeds which are settled down in the bottom of that tank, these are pure Barsim seed. And after getting pure Barsim seed from that 10% salt solution, we can sow the Barsim as a weed-free Barsim cultivation. So deep summer plowing is also important for chicory management. In case of Cuscuta, Lucerne, Cuscuta is a weed and it should be managed. So for that, first weeding should be done on 20 to 25 days after sowing. After weed management, insect pest management is very important. Timely for proper insect pest management, timely and properly application of insecticide, fungicide is important. In forest crops, we generally avoid application of the pesticide due to the residual toxicity, but appropriate chemicals should be applied in severe infestation. If infestation is very severe, then we should apply, and we should always take care that after application of that pesticide, we should not spread the forest to our animals at least up to 20 to 30 days. After a proper removal of the residual toxicity of that pesticide, we should apply use our forest for the animals. Selection of resistant variety for that particular insect and disease. Balanced nutrition also important for disease management, because here if we see that if we do not follow the balanced nutrition, or we can say if we apply much more nitrogen than any other nutrient. So nitrogen has a property, it enhances the succulency of that particular plant here where we apply. So due to the more succulency, the insect pest incidence is much more higher in that field in comparison to less nitrogen applied plant. So balanced nutrient important. Is sulfur. All of you know sulfur is also play a very important role in the disease management, especially fungal management. So fungal sulfur management, sulfur application is the different crops is also important. Time of sowing, we can withhold we can also get it from the if we take the appropriate time of sowing technique. And crop diversification. If we apply exact crop and its diversification, then disease management can be done. Like in case if we have any winter season crop, and if we apply as a border crop linseed, then the infestation of insect and disease will be more, especially the wilt disease. So the proper selection of the crop is also. After managing all the inputs, the harvesting management of our forest crops is very important, because if we delay the harvesting, we will compromise with the quality, and if we harvest early harvest, then we will compromise with the tonnage or biomass production. So appropriate stage is very important. For example, in general, we are at 50% flowering stage, grasses should be harvested, and leguminous fodder crops, early blooming stage, and in multi-cut fodder crops, first cut should be at 55 to 60 days after sowing, and following cut of 40 days interval. Soil moisture status should be considered for proper harvesting, as I already discussed. For example, in sorghum, if soil moisture is not proper up to the safe limit, then we should not harvest that sorghum crop, because there is an anti-quality element HCN is there. So soil moisture status should be considered before harvesting of the crop. So proper raccoon management is important, and fresh plantation of after 3 to 4 years in case of the perennials important. And for multi-cut crops, the harvesting height is also very important. 6 to 10 centimeter height should be maintained for the multi-cut or perennial fodder crop. So these things should be kept in the mind for the harvesting management. And if we keep mind in all these things, the yield of our fodder crops will be more and throughout the year. So these are some stages of the different fodder crops, at which stage should be applied, and their time of harvest is with, means after how many days after sowing up, after how many days after previous cut we should take the cut of that fodder crop. For example, in case of maize, it is a always single cut. Silking to milk stage is the most appropriate stage, and which is 60 to 70 days after sowing. But in case of, if you see here in the perennial grasses, first 75 days after planting and subsequent cuts 30 days after interval, or 30 days after the previous cut. So for example, in case of Persimmon, first cut 50 to 55 days after sowing and subsequent cut 25 to 30 days after sowing. So proper management is proper cutting management is important. So if we manage our crop and their variety with all agricultural practices, means proper selection of crop, proper soil management, proper it's according to their variety, nutrient, irrigation, weed, insect pest, then we can harvest a plentiful quantity of the biomass. And if we sow these components crop in a simple in a system, for example, in perennial crop for rounded fodder production, perennial grass based system, NB hybrid, which is a perennial grass and which is intercropped with cowpea, persimmon plus mustard, it has a potential to give 273 ton green fodder per hectare per year, and it has cereal legume ratio 67 to 33. The ideal cereal legume proportion for proper diet of the animal is 67 to 33. So under this system, there is a also ideal proportion of the cereal and legume. The adoption area of this technology is the whole India except tropical region, because in tropical region persimmon we cannot grow. So in that area we can grow cowpea in place of persimmon, or here we can also grow lucerne in place of the persimmon. So peri-urban and milk state areas are our is clientele of this technology, and water requirement of this system is 1090 millimeter, and this this system can support 7 to 8 animal cattle units. So if we use this perennial type of system or related to this system, we can grow, we can harvest sufficient quantity of forage which can feed 7 to 10 adult cattle units. Means generally adult cattle units means our cattle, Indian cattle are normally 350 kg body weight, and 350 kg body weight is considered as one adult cattle unit. This is the perennial based cropping system. Similarly, seasonal based cropping system or annual based cropping system like sorghum, cowpea, followed by persimmon, Japanese rape, and maize sorghum during summer. This is seasonal based, and which can also provide fodder throughout the year. About 200 ton green fodder this system can provide. These two systems are fully irrigated, and similarly, for example, in case of rain-fed areas, the Subabul plus tri-specific hybrid sorghum plus pigeon pea as a grain crop. If we apply this system, it can provide 53 ton green fodder and about 0.4 ton pigeon pea grain, and which can sustain 2 to 3 our adult cattle units per year under rain-fed situation. So this is the example of rounded fodder production technology for rain-fed situation. One more example is the sorghum as a grain and cowpea as a fodder under rain-fed situation. Because under rain-fed situation, the possibility of growing second crop means after cultivation, growing the crop in the Kharif season, there is very less possibility to grow the crop under Rabi season. So in the Kharif season, we grow sorghum as a grain crop and cowpea as a fodder crop. This system also can give 17 ton green fodder and 2.5 ton grain as a sorghum grain, and which can sustain 2 to 3 animals. So these are some crop sequences which have very high promising and net return. For example, hybrid Napier cowpea persimmon. This is the production potential 273, dry matter yield is 44, and 2.41 is the net return. So these are the forage yield and their net return are economics of these cropping system. So there are some also other than rounded fodder production technologies. If the farmer is landless, or we can say small and marginal farmers, they cannot devote the fodder for their animals. They can use fodder on bund or fodder on field boundary technology or fodder on terrace technology. Through application of this technology, they can harvest about 7 to 9 quintal green fodder per 100 meter length of the boundary. And in these boundaries, perennial grasses like NB hybrid, guinea grass, setaria grass can be planted. And without any investment, we can get about 7 to 11 quintal green fodder per 100 meter bund length. And this technology have very much potential in the India basis. If we see here, our number of holdings are about 92 million land holdings are marginal, and 1 million ton holdings are marginal. And if we use 10% of these bunds area, only 10%, then we can produce 17.8 million ton green fodder per hectare per year. So if farmers are small and marginal, so we cannot devote their field for the fodder, they can use their bunds or terraces, especially in the hilly region of our country. The terraces or risers can be used as a fodder production. So there are some lean periods of in these our production crop-based production systems. If we use this system, fodder-based NB hybrid system, this system, and here we see that in case of guinea grass or in NB hybrid system plus cow intercropped with persimmon, so there is the production is the in case of July to September, and in November, December, there is a very less production in that system. And in case of June, May, June, there is also very less production. So there is this period is called as a lean period. Similarly, if any farmer want to grow only guinea grass, so in case of guinea grass under northern India condition, there is a high production during the Kharif season, means up to December, and there will very less production during the January, February, and up to March. And if any farmer want to grow only cowpea followed by persimmon system, then here we can see here in case of cowpea and persimmon system, the production he get only during the October, and rest of the period July to September there is a non-availability of the fodder. And similarly in case of cowpea to persimmon, there is a non-availability of November to fodder during the November to December. So proper management of forage or proper assurance of fodder availability during these lean period is also important, and for that particular periods we must use some other techniques like fodder conservation through silage and through hay. And also for the alternate fodder resources. Azolla is an alternate source of feed, and because it has very good amount of the protein, about 25 to 30%, and 10 to 15% minerals, and 7 to 10% amino acids, and vitamins. So Azolla can be used as a feed supplement to fulfill the need of the feed and to cut down the production cost of the our livestock. So for cultivation of Azolla, it should be cultivated in shallow freshwater pond, and side should be partially shade. And if shade is not there, then we should provide the net shade for Azolla cultivation, because it requires hardly 50% of the solar radiation for their proper growth and development. And it should be either pakka or kacha pit, and size should be 1.5 meter wide, 3 to 4 meter length, and 0.3 meter depth. And number of pits may vary on the basis of the number of livestock with that particular farmer. So for the cultivation of Azolla, we should mix 3 kg soil, 1 kg cow dung, 3 gram single super phosphate per meter square of the tank, and with water up to the depth of 20 centimeter. In all cases, we should not fill the water more than 20 centimeters depth. And after mixing all these things, we should culture the pit with 20 gram Azolla per square meter. And after proper management, 15 days after proper management and inoculation, we can get 250 gram Azolla per meter square fresh from the as a feed supplement. So after 15 days of inoculation, we can harvest 15 gram Azolla per meter square per day. Per day availability will be 250 gram. So Azolla is a better option. And so if for proper management, the proper selection of crop rotation, crop management of that particular variety, and the management of fodder during lean period through conservation, because in case during Kharif season, lot of biomass is surplus available, we should conserve the that biomass as a silage or hay. And also we should make a plan for Azolla cultivation for feed supplement. So by these ways, we can ensure the availability of our green fodder to our animals for throughout the year. That's all, friends. If you have any query or any discussion on this aspect, you are most welcome. Thank you.
Any questions, participants? Please ask.
Nice presentation, sir.
Okay.
Sir, regarding the quantity of Azolla,
Yeah.
whether you have to apply the fresh or dried one, sir?
Yeah, it is applied as a fresh. Normally, if we are providing the Azolla to animals first time, then
Yes, sir.
normally animals dislike them, and
Yes,
after
sir.
some time, after collection of the Azolla from the pit and proper washing, after
Yes, sir.
if we try 2 to 3
Yes, sir.
days, then they will take it easily.
Sir, regarding the problem, we are applying the dung.
Yeah.
We are applying the dung in the pit, especially Azolla pit. We are applying the dung. 1 kg dung.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while feeding to the animals, again we are facing regarding the smell. The animals will reject regarding the feeding.
That's why proper washing is important.
Yes, sir.
And proper washing is important, and don't waste that water. And that water can be again either shifted in that tank, or that water can be used as a irrigation in our nearby plants to Azolla unit.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So proper washing is important.
Yes.
Anybody else, friends?
Anyone else?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dr.
I
Ghulam
have few
Naseer.
queries.
Please ask.
Sir, I have a few queries, sir.
Yeah.
Number one, sir, regarding harvesting stage of the fodder.
Yeah.
You said if you delay it, it will decrease the quality and
Sir, you can
early
stop the
harvesting.
present. Just a
Yeah.
second,
Yeah.
Dr. Ghulam.
If you delay the
Sir, sir,
harvesting, then
sir,
we
you
will.
can stop sharing. Sir, you can stop sharing so that we can see you. So that we can see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop
Yes,
sharing in meet window. In
yeah.
meet window, when you see my face, stop sharing. Stop sharing in the meet window. In the
Oh,
meet window, stop sharing. While you saw my face, stop sharing. Yeah, so now we can see you. Please go ahead, ask your question.
yeah.
Uh, Sir, regarding harvesting, so what will be the proper stage of harvesting of fodder so that it is fit for the animal? Because we see that if we are feeding animals with immature fodders, there are multiple problems like bloat and phytoestrogenic problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what is the proper stage of harvesting of fodder so that it is fit for the animal? It is
Yeah.
sir number one. Sir
Yeah.
number one. Number two, what are the technical points which a farmer should know about the stage of harvesting? Number three, should we go for drying of the fodder before feeding to animals?
Yeah.
Number four,
Yeah.
regarding these landless farmers and which have or small or marginal farmers, will the seed rating will be similar? Seed rate when they are using their terraces or bunds, will they go for similar seed rates? And
So,
number last, sir,
yeah.
it is out of this topic regarding organic fodder production, sir.
Yeah.
So regarding organic fodder production, should there be use of integrating nutrient management required
Okay.
for organic fodder production?
I will, yes, I will try to answer one of your query. So I want to go from reverse side. You asked regarding organic fodder production. For organic fodder production, INM or integrated nutrient management is not part of the organic fodder production. For organic fodder production, you must apply organic sources of nutrients and other pesticide means disease management and other things. So only organic management is required for the organic fodder production. Integrated nutrient and integrated weed management is not part of the organic fodder production. No doubt in under organic fodder production, the requirement of FYM or organic resources is much more higher uh, in comparison and much more costly. So we developed here at IGFRI a technology. If any farmer apply 25% of the nutrient requirement, only 25% nutrient requirement through organic sources, and save 75% nutrient up to continuous up to 6 years, they can get equivalent yield to the inorganic fodder production. So the production technology is important. You can say up to if you apply for up to 4 years, 100% organic nutrient management and followed by only 25% requirement of FYM nutrients through FYM, we can get sufficient quantity, or you can say the up to the level of inorganic nutrient management. And your query about the seed rate of small and marginal farmer. Seed rate not depend upon the small and marginal farmer. Seed rate is always a standard for all type of the farmers. It did not use you said for small farmer we should apply lesser seed, and for dairy farmers that should apply large quantity of more quantity of seed. So quantity of seed is same for small farmer, marginal farmer, or large farmer. It is not depend upon the category. It depends upon the time of sowing, method of sowing, and seed size. So seed rate depends upon all those things. And you have a query about the harvesting stage of the crop. Harvesting stage depends upon the in case of leguminous, I already told the blooming stage means flowering stage is most appropriate stage of the harvesting of the leguminous crop. And in case of non-leguminous crop or cereal crops, the 50% flowering is a proper stage. But in case of perennial fodders, I already shared in a slide that in case of perennials, up to 70 to 75 days after the planting, we should go for the first harvesting. And after that, 30 to 35 days after previous cut, we should harvest the crop. So the harvesting stage also vary crop to crop. And I told that the biomass yield may be higher if we delay the crop harvesting, but the quality means there is a development of fibrous system, more fiber. The crude protein content may low if we delay the harvesting stage. But if we should also consider the crop also. I also given an example regarding if drought is there and we have a sorghum as a fodder, so we should first irrigate the crop and down the toxicity level of the SCN and then harvest that crop. We must here compromise with quality. Because if we harvest at that stage when the drought is there and we feed our animals, then it is toxic to our animals. So to avoid any loss from animal health, so we must either delay or wait for the irrigation, and then we should apply our fodder. I may forget any your query.
Any other question? Ghulam Rasool, you have muted yourself. If you are responding to the answer, you are not audible.
Okay, sir. Sir, regarding drying the fodder before feeding to the livestock, what's its importance, sir? We are here informed that it is for detoxification of some chemicals. What are your, sir? What are your opinions regarding drying the fodder before feeding to the animal?
Drying of the fodder.
Yes, sir. Sun drying.
Pardon, I can't listen to you. Please repeat. Please repeat.
इसको देने के लिए 50,000 है ना मैं ये दे अब बता वो जो 2,000 है ना वो से दी नहीं बोला कि मैं उन्हें टाइम से बचा इतना एडजस्ट और
I can't understand the query.
Sir,
Yeah, please repeat.
Please repeat.
sir, I am saying that when we are using the fodder as feed for the livestock,
Yeah.
we should go for sun drying of the fodder first.
Yeah.
What is your suggestion? What is importance of sun drying?
Yeah, if we use our green fodder as a dry, we should dry our fodder in the shade. So if we dry our fodder in the shade, then the color will not change. So normally we see our animals like greeniness in any feeding material. If so, even dry fodder is there and color is green, that they prefer it. Similarly, in case of silage, of animals is much more for silage because they the color of the silage is somewhat greenish. So color is important. But in some fodder, the moisture content is much more higher. And if we 100% our feed our animals on green fodder and which have higher moisture content, they have suffer from some problems like bloating. So we should avoid, we should reduce that moisture in that green fodder. For example, if we feed our animals on barsim has much more water content. Sometimes our animal feels that our stomach is full, but after some time, because of the much more quantity of water, the dry matter requirement they get not fulfilled, and our production of that animal or livestock is lower. So the proper management of moisture in that green fodder is important, especially in the high moisture content fodder. in case of Tharmless factor, where much more quantity of water is there. So proper drying of that fodder or proper proportion. If moisture content is there is more in that fodder, we should reduce the quantity of that green fodder and enhance the quantity of feed and dry roughages.
Okay, sir. Sir, one more thing.
Because on an average for 100 kg body weight, about 2.5 kg dry matter is required. So on an average for one Indian cattle, our indigenous cattle, about 8 kg to 9 kg dry matter is required for their proper growth and development, or you can up to 10 liter productivity, maintaining 10 liter productivity.
Okay, sir.
friends.
One more thing is that you said, sir, if soil fertility is low,
Yeah.
then cowpea can be selected as the fodder.
Yeah.
So what are the characteristic features of cowpea so that it is growing in this low soil fertility, sir?
Because friends, cowpeas belong to leguminous group, and leguminous group have a capability or ability to fix atmospheric nitrogen, and their nitrogen requirement, they can fix their nitrogen requirement from biological nitrogen fixation. So that's why under low fertile soils, cowpea or any other leguminous forest crops like persimmon, stylosanthus under non-arable lands, guar under poor soils, lucerne. These crops can be selected under low fertile soils, because in the leguminous plants, as I already told you in nutrient management, phosphorus nutrition is important, because they require from 45 to 80 kg phosphorus per hectare. So phosphorus is important. If phosphorus status is sufficient in that soil, we have ability, our farmers have capacity to provide phosphorus from external sources, then the cowpea can be performed better than other non-leguminous crop, means oat or NB hybrid, guinea grass.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Nice presentation, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot, dear.
Any other queries?
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, this is Ramakrishna, sir, Assistant Professor from Veterinary College, Hyderabad, sir.
Yeah, hi Ramakrishna.
Sir, hi, sir. Regarding this excess use of nitrogen, suppose
Yeah.
if you use excess nitrogen in the soil,
Yeah.
it will reach to the plant and it may got some toxic effect. Recently, one incident occurred in Vijayawada. Some of the 80 animals died in Goshala. They post-mortem the animals and they said that this is due to because of the excess use of nitrogen.
Yeah, you might hear about the nitrate toxicity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If we apply high dosage of nitrogen, especially at the time of harvesting of that forest crop, then
Yes,
nitrate toxicity is there, and due to nitrate toxicity, which is higher, which is harmful for our animals or livestock, then this type of mishappening may occur. So that's why balanced nutrition and on the basis of soil test is recommended. First we test our soil. What is the level of, like in case of nitrogen, like if nitrogen level is 280 to 560, that means our soil is under medium category. And if soil is more than 560 kg nitrogen per hectare available nitrogen, then soil is sufficient, or you can say the higher level of nitrogen there. So the application of nitrogen is very important as for the availability of soil on the basis of soil fertility status.
So my question is that how much excess? Suppose the recommended dose is 120 kg per hectare in
Yeah.
case of cereals. So how
Yeah.
much if you apply the excess nitrogen, it will stop to the animal? Is there any research has occurred on this topic?
Yeah, research on this aspect is also already conducted at NAI, National Institute of Animal Nutrition at Bangalore, and also in our institute. And they found that if nitrogen limit is nitrate limit is 1600 ppm, more than 1600 ppm, Yes, then it is harmful for the nutrition for animals in the plant system. So nitrate concentration limit must be below than 1600 ppm in the plant system. And maybe for more clarity, our animal scientist, some discussions or some lectures of animal scientists will be there. They will definitely reply better than me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. But in all, hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
And most of the state agriculture universities, there is no plant animal relationship department, sir. This is the lacuna here, sir. It is only there in IGFRI, the department.
Yeah. This is our institute, unique institute where plant animal relationship there, because our institute is only doing research on the forest crops. That's why the plant animal relationship division is there. And whatever we as agronomists do, there any research or any plant breeder do research and develop their variety, they must do some animal trial, feeding trial, and after that variety or technology is released or advocated to the farmers. So that's why this division was created, and we are doing on these lines. Hello.
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 I am Dr. Shukla from Agriculture University, Jodhpur, sir.
Yes.
I congratulate sir for a nice presentation. I have one query, sir. I have read so many literature about the Barsim cultivation. I have found that the Barsim seed should be mixed with tetraploid and diploid varieties before the sowing. What is the reason behind that?
Because I think this is a breeder specific question, and in the breeding session you must make this query with them, and definitely they will clear your query. But in case of Barsim, mustard is advocated and oat is advocated for higher biomass in the first cut, because in first cut the biomass is much more lower. So to enhance the biomass content in first cut, the mustard and oat is advocated, and maybe as you told that tetraploid and haploid groups of the Barsim are mixed for the better or higher biomass. Maybe technology may be there.
Okay. Okay, then another question is that, sir, as the temperature increases in case of Barsim and Lucerne product, the woodiness, that is more cellulose formation in the stem were recorded.
Yeah.
Sir, there is any technology or any agronomic interventions have you found to increase the hemicellulose as compared to the cellulose content in the stem? It is better for the biomass production and as well as palatability.
Because if you see in case of Barsim does not tolerate with the high temperature, and see and they have the definite climatic requirement for the conversion from vegetative stage to reproductive stage. If you see in case of Barsim, the reproductive starts from March onward. So if any plant, Barsim or any other plant, if go from vegetative to reproductive stage, definitely there will be more development of fibrous system. So that's why Barsim is much more sensitive to the high temperature. But in Lucerne is somewhat tolerate to the high temperature, and quality up to the level up to the month of June is maintained. So after June, in the month of July, due to the heavy rain, the quality of Lucerne may deteriorate. But up to the June, the quality of Lucerne is better and edible to our lifestyle.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, whatever the varieties released from IFFRI or any public sector institute, who is taking care of seed production.
For seed production aspect.
Yes, sir, seed production. And availability for commercial sale in KVK like institutions.
Actually, all the varieties which have promegene, they must be in the food seed chain. So,
Yes, sir.
if any variety have better seed production ability, that may not have the higher biomass production ability. So, we should first see on what is the biomass production ability of that crop, that variety. So, on that basis, if for example, if Vardhan, which is a very popular variety of Barsim, and also have very more promising at the farmer's field. So the seed production of that particular Vardhan variety should be encouraged, not the any variety which is very poor and not popular and not performing better at farmer's field. The seed production of that variety should not be preferred or advocated. For example, if Kent is a very popular variety of oat and also gave much more higher yield than other variety. And the variety which is, for example, JHO 822. This is for like examples, which have much more seed yield. So we cannot advocate anyone to grow for seed production. You grow Kent, and for fodder production you go 820. Whatsoever variety which is performing better for biomass production, it should be in the seed chain, and the seed production should be promoted of that particular variety. So the promotion of seed of any variety should be must be depend upon the production potential of green biomass production potential of that variety, not on the seed production potential of that particular variety. For example, single cut Barsim is there, and seed production may be higher in comparison to Vardhan, but Vardhan have specific nature. They have multi-cut nature, and single cut Barsim have a single cut nature. So, if any farmer or any area requires single cut Barsim seed, then single cut Barsim should be promoted in that particular area. If any farmer require Vardhan or multi-cut type of Barsim, then multi-cut type of Barsim variety should be promoted in the seed chain.
Okay, sir.
So I think we must first give priority on the biomass production of that particular variety.
Okay, sir. No, sir. Is there any seed availability is there throughout the year for fodder seeds in the institution like Jhansi?
Yes, seed is available in Jhansi. In bulk quantity, we take the requisition of the different stakeholders, and accordingly in one season advance, and accordingly we grow our seed for bulk supply. And if any farmer want 5, 10, 20 kg seed, then it is already available almost all varieties which is developed by our institute. At least we also producing seed of varieties which are developed by other organizations, other institutes or universities. But at least our varieties which are developed by our institute, we produce seed also.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Hello,
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
This is Dr. Shubhana Raichaudhary from Bihar Agriculture University.
Yeah.
Sir, first of all, I must congratulate you for your nice and informative presentation. Sir, I have one query. So can you please suggest me 1 or 2 growth regulators or growth promoters for promoting the growth of fodder crops?
Yeah. Indole acetic acid and even our glyphosate and 2,4-D. These are also tested by our institute, and indole acetic acid gave some better results. And some other growth promoters are my colleague Mr. Mukesh did some experiment. I will discuss with him, and please you can mail me, and I will reply you sure.
Yes, sir. Sir, is gibberellic acid is helpful? Gibberellic acid.
Pardon?
Gibberellic acid will be helpful, sir.
I think
Gibberellic
Indolic acid may not be helpful, but indolic acid is helpful. And my colleague did some work. I will discuss with him, and sure I will give you technology and requirement of that particular chemical or growth regulator for the growth promoting. But always remember, before applying any such type of growth promoter is forage crop, because the consumer of that forage is our animals. If we apply any growth promoter or any things that may be harmful to animals or to human being, because human beings are consumer of that meat and milk. So the quantity and the type of that promoter may be considered before application. Some work has been done in our institute by our colleague, and I will give you.
Yes, sir, please, sir, please. Also, timing of application. Name, suggestion, name and timing of application.
Proper technology of that particular application of that growth will be I will provide you, because
Okay,
I did not done work on that aspect. That's why I am sorry to answer your query.
yes, sir. It's okay, sir. Very nice presentation. Very impressive. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Hello friends, if you have any query, then ask me. Otherwise, I want to go in
Participants, do we have any other query? I think we have overshot our time, and sir might have other engagements. Any final query, and we'll go.
Actually, I have a presentation on NASF in our divisional concept note for NASF. That's why our colleagues are waiting.
Okay, sir. On behalf of the NADCL as well as the participants, I thank you from the bottom of our hearts that it was a lovely presentation, and also the engagement from the participants as well as from your side was enormously great. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. Thanks a lot. We'd like to see more of you with us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, all of you, and I again thank to organizers which have given me opportunity to interact with the peoples of the all corners of our country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We may all leave the call. Thank you.
Thank you.